Welcome, everybody, to a Game 7 post-game Glen Kuiper show. Thank you for joining me, everybody, on what was obviously a thrilling night in Toronto, a devastating night in Seattle for the Mariners fans. But Game 7s are special. They don't happen that often. And we had a good one tonight, and we are going to talk about that right here on the Glen Kuiper Show. Thanks for joining me, everybody. I want to hear your comments about the game tonight. It was a good one. George Springer's the hero. We're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the NFL and Week 7 and Giants manager search. How's that going? And some Game 7 history. So we'll look at some of that fun stuff. So that is what we got for the show tonight. And remember, hit me with the questions and your comments. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and let's get started with what was quite a night in Toronto, I would have to say. So let's get to this a little bit. So the Blue Jays win it 4-3. Toronto is headed to the World Series to take on the Dodgers. For the Blue Jays, their first time back in the World Series since 1993. Remember, they won it in 92. They won it in 93. The only two times that the Blue Jays have been to the World Series before this year. And they won them both. So they are back in it after a long World Series drought. And they will take on the Los Angeles Dodgers. So what can you say? For the Mariners, incredible disappointment, I would imagine. They had a 3-2 lead, 1 game away from wrapping this thing up. And they just could not get it done. They were that close to making their first ever trip to a World Series, and boy, oh boy, that's you feel bad for the Mariners organization and for the players, and just as much for the fans, because I think they really felt like this team had something special, and every team that gets this far feels like they have something special, and they usually do, but that doesn't guarantee a trip to the World Series or a World Series win. So the Mariners, who have been around since 1977, remember they were an expansion franchise. In fact, it's funny if you think about it, the 2 expansion franchises that came into the league, the American League in 1977, the Toronto Blue Jays and the Seattle Mariners. And the Mariners, again, never been to a World Series. This is obviously as close as they've got. Can't get any closer. But they just could not finish the Toronto Blue Jays. So heartbreak in Seattle, no question about it. Bedlam in Toronto, and the Blue Jays will host Game 1 of the World Series. How about that? So they get some time to enjoy, have some fun, get ready for the Dodgers. But they had a better record than the Dodgers in the regular season, so they will have home field advantage in the World Series. So crazy night. Again, the final score: the Blue Jays 4. And the Mariners 3. Mariners head home, and the Blue Jays move on. So again, congratulations to the Toronto Blue Jays. So let's get into the game a little bit. Just break it down. We're not going to go super deep into it. I watched it. Many of you watched it, I'm sure. Hell of a ball game. Comes down to one swing of the bat, and many times these games do that. It may not always be your star player. It may not always be a home run hitter. In this case, it was George Springer, who's a terrific player and has been for a long time. That's the hero. But anyways, so the game started with the Mariners jumping out on top. They got a run in the first inning, but what you like to do is answer back, and that's what the Blue Jays did. They got a huge 2-out RBI hit by Varsho, and that tied the game at 1 apiece after 1. And then in the top of the second, and this is, we can dig into strategy, but, I don't know that tonight's game is so much about strategy. The Blue Jays got a big hit, and, that was the difference. But I thought it was interesting. In the top of the second inning, Seattle had runners on first and second with nobody out, and they bunted, a sacrifice bunt. So I think that it does give you a little idea how a manager thinks the game is going to evolve, right? But they bunted, so they had second and third and 1 out after the sacrifice bunt. It did not work for Seattle. because there was a strikeout and then a ground out. So the sacrifice bunt got runners in scoring position, got a guy to third with, 1 out, put the ball in play, you have a chance to get a run. That did not happen. So in that case, the sack bunt backfired a little bit, took a swing of the bat away, and replaced that with a sacrifice bunt. But they did not score there. Top of the third, Seattle did score, but they did it with the long ball, which they've done a lot in the postseason. They've really relied, the Mariners, on hitting the ball at the ballpark, and it almost won them the game tonight. Julio Rodriguez in the third, his 4th home run this postseason. That gave the Mariners at that point a 2-1 lead. They took top of the 4th. Blue Jays took Bieber out, couple on, couple out, and Louis Varland, the guy who pitches every day, he came in and he got out of it. And I looked it up because it seems like every time you watch the Blue Jays this postseason, Varland pitches, and it was almost true. In fact, they have played in 11 postseason games, and I got this off the TV. 11 postseason games, and they said Varland has pitched in 10 of them. He pitched in 6 of the 7 games in this series, and 10 out of 11 in the postseason. So Louis Varland, the arm is dangling, but he's pretty good out there. Top of the 5th, the home run again for Seattle. This time the big dumper, Cal Raleigh, a solo shot. So at that point, again, that was in the 5th inning. That gives the Mariners a 3-1 lead. And, so now, the Mariners, they're sitting in a good spot. George Kirby goes 4 innings, the Mariners starter. They replace him in the bottom of the 5th with Brian Wu. So Wu comes in, terrific pitcher, really good young pitcher. Been pitching out of the bullpen. Remember, he was hurt, missed the first couple rounds of the postseason, or missed the first round of the postseason for Seattle, but healthy enough to pitch in this division series, or in this championship series, but pitching out of the bullpen. So he goes 2 innings, gets a big double play to end the 5th. And again, this is something that, just because this is what everybody does after a postseason game, after a series, a tight series that goes 7 games. Game 7 is a 1-run game. The question is going to be, should Dan Wilson have left Brian Wu out there, or sent him back out there for a 3rd inning, which was the 7th inning? Well, the results show that no, he shouldn't have. But again, Wu was good for 2 innings. They sent him back out there for the 7th for his 3rd inning of work. And he walked Barger, the leadoff hitter. And you could almost feel things start to change a little bit. And then he hung a breaking ball to Kiner Falefa, just a bad breaking ball. And he doesn't throw a lot of bad pitches, this Wu kid. He's really good, but Kiner Falefa gets a base hit. And then there's a sack bunt. And then they go to the bullpen and they bring in Bizzardo, who has pitched a lot for them, and he's pitched well. But it was Bizzardo who just threw a fastball, would look like to me, right down the middle to George Springer. And Springer unloaded, 3-run homer. Toronto, the stadium, just as you can imagine, I've been to that stadium a lot, and it is very loud. I can imagine what it was like tonight. But Springer, the 3-run homer, that gives the Blue Jays the 4-3 lead. And man, talk about George Springer here in a minute, but that's 23 postseason home runs for George Springer in his career. He's been a terrific player for a long time. So 4-3. This kind of put a smile on my face, even though I did not have a rooting interest in this game. I really honestly didn't. I think either the Mariners or the Blue Jays, very evenly matched. Probably both have the equal amount of chance to beat the Dodgers. It's going to be very difficult. But I did get a smile on my face when Chris Bassett is one of my favorite players in Major League Baseball. I covered him obviously quite a bit when he was with the A's. Just an awesome dude, right? Fun, good guy, good pitcher. He's really, I saw him struggle early on in his career with the A's, where we weren't sure what if he was ever going to stick. And it turns out he's had a nice long career, made a ton of money, and he's very good. And I thought it was great. They brought Chris Bassett in to pitch out of the bullpen top of the 8th inning, and he's been banged up, a little bit of a sore back. So he hasn't started any games in the postseason. So he's learning this whole relief thing. But Bassett came in, got a 3-up, 3-down inning in the 8th inning. So I say good for Chris Bassett. And then in the top of the 9th, clinging to that 1-run lead, Jeff Hoffman comes in and finishes it for the Blue Jays. And that was it, 4-3. And, of course, the hero again, George Springer. And everything you hear about George Springer is positive. I saw him as a young player come up with the Houston Astros. He was there right when the Astros started to turn things around and become a contender and then start winning World Series. Springer was right in that group that was responsible for turning things around in Houston. He was a number 1 draft pick of the Astros. He had some terrific seasons there. And I just always liked the way he played. Almost a little bit reckless at times, where you're like, you just want to say, George, slow down. But he just plays hard. He's dealt with some injuries, but he's really had a terrific career. And to hit 23 postseason home runs, you have to beat 2 things. You have to get to the postseason a lot, which he did with Houston, and you have to be really good in the postseason. And he obviously has been. And so congratulations to, one of baseball's good guys, George Springer. And again, I just want to make sure people know that I did not have a rooting interest in either team. I just enjoy a Game 7. Who doesn't? The excitement was there. And you have to tip your cap to Springer for what he did. You don't always get chances to be that type of hero. But he got one, and he took advantage of it. That's very hard to do in the game of baseball. You do not get a lot of opportunities. Basketball, you're going to get opportunities. You're going to get the ball in your hand. Football, you may get the ball thrown to you, or you're maybe the quarterback. But in baseball, you can't make a difference until you step into the batter's box, and then you better be ready because your opportunities are slim. And Springer got his opportunity, and he certainly took advantage. And I was thinking after the game, Joe Carter has the most famous home run in Toronto Blue Jays history. Obviously, it won a World Series for him. It was Game 6 of the 1993 World Series. Carter hits the home run. Great call by Blue Jays announcers. Touch a ball, Joe. You'll never hit a bigger home run. Well, Springer's home run isn't going to match that, but it's probably going to sit second in Blue Jays all-time home run list. Jose Bautista hit some cool home runs, but this one sent the Blue Jays to the World Series. So that's it for Game 7. That's what happened. It was a well-played game. You don't want to see some mistake made that a guy's just going to have to deal with his whole career. It was a well-played game by both sides. Pitched well. There was pretty good defense. It just came down to one guy having his moment. I'm sure Zardo's he's going to have to wear this one. He's the one who gave up the home run. But I guess my point is it was a well-played game by both teams. I didn't see any crazy managerial moves that are going to get dissected. I'm sure the Wu thing, sending him back out there for a 3rd inning, is going to get talked about. But I don't know that there's, any real strong point that Kimmy made that he absolutely should not have sent him out there. You could say that now. So just a well-played game, so I enjoyed it. It's good for baseball. I do feel bad for the Mariners because, I know how difficult it is. You think about the Giants and all those years in San Francisco and had never having won a World Series, man, that's a bad thing to carry around. That's a bad thing to carry around. And the organization as a whole carries it year after year after year. And the Mariners have been carrying this thing, never have even been to a World Series, year after year after year. And now they're going to have to continue to do that. And you know what? That kind of sucks, but that's the way it goes. And the Blue Jays are headed on. So before we get on to some of my Game 7 recent history, Let's check in with our sponsors as we like to do. Starting with the Carrick Real Estate Team since 1978. The Carrick Real Estate Team has been helping families buy and sell homes across the Bay Area with a legacy of client-first service. Whether you're moving up, downsizing, or making that first home purchase, trust the Carrick Real Estate Team to guide you home. Contact Mike Carrick today for a free home sale or purchase consultation. Give him a call at 925-548-4132. We're also brought to you by Tilden Properties. As an investor, one of the best places to put your money is California's multi-family real estate. That's what Tilden Properties does. And they also give you quarterly dividends and equity buildup in the real estate market, and they do it in a big, big way. Their investors are very, very happy. They're Bay Area based and family owned. It's Tilden Properties. Call them at 925-209-8558 or go to their website and check out their portfolio at tildenproperties.com. We're also brought to you by Valone Insurance. Are you tired of being overcharged on your property insurance? Valone Insurance has multiple options for your home and landlord properties. Save big money on your property insurance. Call Kyle or Ron at Valone Insurance, 925-433-8271. All right, so before we roll on to some Game 7 history that I put together, let's check on some of the comments. We got a few from our loyal listeners, watchers. Okay, let's see. See, Bake That Dough. See, Bake That Dough and I, we're on the same page, baby. Touch them all, George. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life. And unless he hits one in the World Series that wins him a game, you're right. You are correct. So, George Springer, toast of the town. Gary says, what a game and what a series. You knew it was going to end triumphantly for one side and heartbreaking for the other. I mean, that's a great way to describe a Game 7. As fun as it is to see the team celebrate, there's always a part of me that you smile, you're like, oh, look at that. That's awesome. But then there's a part of me that always thinks, man, oh man, the Mariners, they're going to have to wear this forever. We were one game away from the World Series for the first time, and that sucks. I mean, that really does. I mean, that's something that that can wear you down as an organization, and it doesn't mean they won't be back because they have a terrific team, very good young players, they have really good pitching. There's no reason to think that the Mariners won't be good for a while, but you can be really good. But it doesn't mean you're always going to get this close to the World Series. And that's the tough part. Former Oakland A's starting pitcher Chris Bassett plays a key role with a scoreless 8th inning. Chris Bassett. Love that guy. He's a good one. And I'm glad he got in and did something. Bake That Dough says Toronto was the best comeback team all season, and it held true once again. Yes, they were. They were. That's a good statistical reminder. Come back, put the ball in play. They'll hit the ball in the ballpark, but they'll battle you. And that was kind of their MO this year as an offense. So see what they can do against the Dodgers. Gary says, could imagine a lot of people covering the World Series based in the U.S. wanted Seattle because of the travel involved with Toronto to LA and possibly back again. Yeah, I mean, yes, that is true. It's true for people covering it, and you can't blame them, right? I mean, that's a huge difference because you're going to go back and forth. You're going to go back and forth a couple times. Generally the teams just kind of suck it up and say that's fine. We're in this thing, so who cares? But that's for people covering it and working it. Yes, that is something that it will concern them. But anyways. Bake That Dough says, my rooting interest was whoever can beat LA. Well, that's what we're going to cover on Wednesday. Wednesday, we're going to do the Glen Kuiper show at 7:00, and it's going to be our World Series preview. So I wanted to kind of devote one full show to a World Series preview. And I want to find out what you guys think about Who can win this thing? Can somebody beat the Dodgers? That's really the big question. So we're going to cover all that and have some fun with a World Series preview on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. So make sure you tune in then. All right, here's my next segment, and I had a little fun with this. You guys know I like to do a little research, throw a few fun numbers out there. Game 7's recent history, right? Because we just witnessed one. They don't happen all the time, but when they do happen, it's a big deal. It's a big deal in hockey. It's a big deal in the NBA. I mean, it's Game 7, man, right? That's like what one of our watchers just said. It's the ultimate thrill and it's the ultimate heartbreak. So I looked it up a little bit. Let's start with the ALCS, American League Championship Series, since the year 2000. I don't want to go way, way back, but since the year 2000. So that includes, obviously, this year. So how many times in the last 26 seasons, 2000 to this year, 2025, has the ALCS gone 7 games? This year was the 8th time. So 8 times in the last 26 years, the ALCS has gone to 7 games, right? And remember, it also went 7 games just a couple of years ago in 2023 when the Rangers beat the Astros in Houston. And that was the series where the road team won every game. How about, you don't see that very often, especially in a Game 7. The road team won every game in 2023 of the ALCS. That is the last time after this year or before this year that it went 7 games. So 8th time in the last 26 years for the ALCS, we've seen a 7-game series. The National League Championship Series, they've gone to Game 7 times since 2000. Also in 2023. So 2023, we had the ALCS and the NLCS both go to Game 7. What happened? The Diamondbacks beat the Phillies in Philadelphia. Arizona went to Philadelphia and won Game 6 and then won Game 7. That's a tough place to win Game 7. Arizona did that 2 years ago. So the National League Championship Series, 7 times we've seen a Game 7 in the last 26 years. The American League Championship Series, we've seen it 8 times in the last 26 years. Now, let's go to the World Series. Is there anything better? World Series, Game 7? No. We just saw a League Championship Series go to Game 7, but man, World Series, last 25 years. We haven't had a World Series yet this year, so it's starting in year 2000. Last 25 years, how many times has the World Series gone to Game 7? 7 times. 7 times, but not since 2019 have we had a Game 7 in the World Series. Now, let's get the local ties involved in this. So 7 times, Game 7, World Series since 2000. The San Francisco Giants have played in 2 of those Game 7s. They've seen heartbreak and they've seen winning it all. 2002, the Giants played Game 7 in Anaheim and lost. You probably remember it. You probably want to forget it. The series was lost Game 6. I think we can all agree on that. But anyways, so Giants fans know the feeling of a Game 7 defeat where you don't even feel good. You feel like you're going to throw up, right? But 2014, Game 7, it was the Giants in Kansas City. And of course, we know what happened. That was the Mad Bum game. So the Giants have lost a Game 7 in an opposing team's ballpark, and they have won a Game 7 in the opposing team's ballpark. Now, this is since 2000. Of course, you can go back to 1962, way back. I wasn't born yet. But of course, the Giants lost a Game 7 there at Candlestick Park to the Yankees. That was the McCovey lineout to Bobby Richardson. So now again, that's a long time ago. But again, Game 7s are great. They're fun. They're fun if you win. They're devastating if you lose. But that's a little Game 7 history in baseball. At least we'll say recent history. And the Giants have been involved, so they know what it's like to be crushed, and they know what it's like to celebrate. And that's what the Toronto Blue Jays are doing right now. They're celebrating as they are going to the World Series. Okay, next segment, the Giants manager search. What is going on? Giants fans are scratching their head. All the rumors came flying out on social media. I mean, it was hot. It was hot. Tony Vitello, the head coach at the University of Tennessee, has been offered the job. They're working on a deal. That was 2 days ago. And now we haven't heard much the last day or so. Social media has showed photos of Vitello at practice during fall baseball at the University of Tennessee. I don't know what that means. Probably doesn't mean anything. But it's gone quiet, somewhat quiet anyways, for the last 24 hours or so. I don't think that necessarily means anything. But from what we are hearing, he has been offered, the Giants have offered Tony Vitello the job. And it's Andrew Baggerly, who's the terrific writer, covers the Giants for The Athletic, said the ball's in his court, in Vitello's court, his court. If he wants the job, it's his. That's where it's at. I've peeked around a little bit, but everybody's got this covered up fairly well. And here's a possibility. I don't know for sure that this is going on, but this could be part of the kind of quiet nature of the last couple days. Major League Baseball, and I don't blame them. I'd be the same way. They're not going to let you make a manager announcement, a manager hiring announcement on the same day as a Game 7, whether it's a Game 7, like I said, ALCS, NLCS, World Series. They don't want you to do that as an organization. It makes perfect sense. Let's not take anything away from the game on the field. Tonight had a Game 7. So you're not going to, you aren't going to hear anything today. I don't know if there's anything to hear or not. I don't know if there's anything to announce. I have no idea. But it wasn't going to happen today because there was a Game 7. Okay. Now, it's no different. Major League Baseball says, you know what? If this is the World Series is underway. Really, we prefer that you don't make a major announcement, and I think that's fair. Now, the World Series starts Friday. Okay, so you got a 3-day box here: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If you're sitting on something as an organization, if you're sitting on an announcement, Major League Baseball, I'm guessing, would probably let you do that before the World Series starts. So maybe this thing is going to come to a head really, really soon. Game 7s are over. World Series doesn't start till Friday. That's 4 days away. You got 3 days to make an announcement, if there is an announcement to make. So this is really kind of a two-headed thing, but that's my call on why it's been quiet, why we heard a lot about it Saturday and Sunday, but not quite as much today. It's very possible. Wouldn't be surprised if we hear something in the next couple days, one way or the other, if that makes any sense. So that's as deep as I can go on the Giants manager search. A lot of comments out there about it. But we're going to wait and see if they do indeed hire Vitello, which would be maybe the greatest out of the box manager hiring ever. And I don't say that as a bad thing. I think it shows that, you know what? Buster's got some stones, and he's not afraid to go out of the box, way out of the box. High risk, high reward. But we'll see. We'll see if that indeed comes to it. We don't know if Tony Vitello will be the Giants manager, but we do know that it sounds like it's his decision to make. So we'll keep a close eye on that, as we always do. All right, let's shift gears to the NFL Week 7. We like to throw in an NFL segment during each show if we can. And now that it's almost over. They're at halftime up in Seattle, I believe. Yes, so Seattle is playing. But that's obviously the final game of the week. So let's start with the Niners. Kind of a slugfest, kind of a boxing match. They win 20-10 over the Falcons. They just keep doing their thing. They deserve a ton of credit. Coaches deserve a ton of credit. They got a 5-2 record now, sitting atop the NFC West. Rams are 5-2. The Seahawks who are playing right now, as I said, they're winning 14-6 at halftime. They're also 4-2. If they were to win that, they would be 5-2. So Niners, Rams, and possibly the Seahawks by the end of the night all could be 5-2. But anyways, yesterday again, or last night, it was just kind of a slug match. But that's okay. The Niners, listen, looking at the numbers, which I like to do, as you guys know, the Niners had 150 passing yards, which is not a lot, not in today's NFL. But they had 174 rushing yards. So that's what I mean when it was like a bang up, run the ball, pound on people kind of game. And the Niners came out on top. Defense held Bijan Robinson, who, if he's not the best back in the NFL, he's in the top 5, I think. He's a top 5 running back. Terrific talent, but he only had 40 yards on 14 carries. That's how good this defense was, this young defense. I think that may be the most impressive thing about the Niners is they got big talent hurt, right? Bosa's out, Warner, we know that. But they were young with those guys. And now that those guys are out for the year, they're even younger. But it hasn't slowed them down. It hasn't slowed them down. So the young defense continues to shine, and they shine very bright last night in their win over the Falcons. I want to talk about Christian McCaffrey. I love talking about Christian McCaffrey because he's such a stud. But we need to start thinking about this guy as, and I mean, legitimately, a legitimate MVP candidate. I don't think there's any question. The MVP award, and it leans a little bit toward quarterbacks. That's fair. But there's been running backs who have won this thing. I mean, it's not some crazy thing that happens every once in a while. I mean, this does happen. But Christian McCaffrey last night, 129 rushing yards and 72 yards receiving. Think about that. He's remarkable. He just pinballs around. He takes a beating. He just takes a beating, but he gets up, gets back in the huddle, and takes the ball again. So here's some of his numbers, okay? And this is why, this is not some stretch here. He is an MVP candidate. In fact, he and Jonathan Taylor from the Colts may be the 2 front runners, and they're both running backs. So listen to this. Updated numbers through week 7. Christian McCaffrey is 11th in the NFL in rushing yards. So, he's got 465. Okay, 11th in the league, not in the top 5. But keep moving on here. He's 3rd in the NFL in receptions with 53. He has 21 more receptions than any other running back. 21 more catches than any other running back. 3rd in the league in receptions. That's an area that is held for receivers, for wide receivers, not for McCaffrey. He is in the top 3. He is 6th in the league in receiving yards. Think about that. Receiving yards from a running back. He's 6th in the league. He's the only running back in the top 25 in receiving yards in the NFL. It's all wide receivers, sprinkle in a few tight ends. He's 6th in receiving yards, 3rd in receptions, 11th in rushing. Now, here's the one that tops it off for me. He leads the league in rushing attempts, 132 through 7 games, okay? He has 185 touches in 7 games. Very simple. A touch, rushing attempt, a reception. He's 1st in the NFL in touches, 185. 2nd is the aforementioned Jonathan Taylor in touches. How many times does a guy have the ball in his hand? That's what it is. Taylor is 2nd with 154. Christian McCaffrey has 31 more touches than any other player in the NFL. 31 more touches. If you add that all up and how important he has been to the Niners with their receivers being injured, 2nd string quarterback playing, although he's been very good, just think about the offense and how important Christian McCaffrey is to that. They just got Kittle back. Can he block or what? Think about that. That's why, to me, you can make a pretty strong argument, and it's early yet. Listen, we're in week 7, right? 49ers have played 7 games. They got 10 more games to play. But at this point, you could make a fairly strong argument that Christian McCaffrey is the MVP in this league, most valuable player to his team. Think about it. I mean, seriously. The guy's special. He's special. So the Niners will get rolling again next Sunday. They'll be on the road at Houston. Okay. Houston is playing right now. They're playing up in Seattle against the Seahawks, and they're losing that game at halftime. So right now, Houston's 2-3. They lost their first 3, won their next 2, and they're losing tonight. So, but that's where the Niners will be next Sunday at Houston. So they will they'll hit the road. So here's a few thoughts on the NFL through week 7. Again, it's been an interesting season. To me, and there was a game played earlier. There was 2 Monday night games tonight. And it had some NFC ramifications. The Lions beat the Buccaneers 24-9 in Detroit. So Lions win. Tampa Bay loses. Final score 24-9. So to me, the NFL seems incredibly wide open this year, more than it has been in years past. And when I say wide open, I'm talking about there not being a couple teams that are maybe head and shoulder, maybe better than everybody else. The Chiefs, the Eagles. I think the last couple of years you could say that about these teams. It just seems like there's more parity this year. Is there a team in either conference at this point that jumps out that says, yeah, you know what, they're really good? No, I don't see that at all. Now that could change because again, we're not even halfway there. But it strikes me, so far at least, it has been one of those years where parity reigns, and there's just not a standout team, and it's wide open. It is wide open. I think that makes the NFL more interesting because, we're seeing so many games, close, tight, field goal wins it, right? So I was curious, all these close games, how many actually are there? What are we talking about here? So I looked, and so far this year, I'm just looking this up. So 14 games this week, okay? And there's one still going on, right? So 14 games this week that have been finished. 5 were decided by a touchdown or less. So 5 out of the 14 with one game still being played. So not a huge amount of tight games, but there were some this past week. Week 6, last week, I looked that up. 15 games played, 6 were decided by a touchdown or less. Okay. Week 5, 14 games played, 8 were decided by a touchdown or less. And then in week 4, so we're going back, right? We're going back 4 weeks from week 7. In week 4, 10 of the 16 games played were decided by a touchdown or less. I mean, so this week wasn't too bad in comparison to what we've seen the last month. It just seems like every game is close, but it doesn't mean there's still not heart-pumping games, because there is. Niner fans know it. I mean, almost every game, pretty much every game, even this one, it still goes down to the last, the fourth quarter. So anyways, so tight games everywhere. And then you start looking at the teams. Let's take a look at the teams. How many one-loss teams are there now after week 7? There's only 2 left. The Colts, who look like a very good team, and the Packers, who also have a tie. Okay, so those are the 2 one-loss teams, and one of them has a loss and a tie. The Bucs lost tonight, so they become a 2-loss team. So how many 2-loss teams are there? 11. 11 2-loss teams, and there's 8 3-loss teams. Okay, so, and again, it can be a little muddled this time of year because there's not a lot of separation. But I guess my point is still, I just don't see a team that jumps out as boom. Oh, yeah, they're clearly the best team in the NFL. Listen, in the AFC, the division leaders are Denver, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, and New England. Okay. Who jumps out in that group? Well, they're all nice teams. Denver's won 4 in a row. New England's won 4 in a row. Denver and Pittsburgh, they were in the postseason last year's wild card teams. Indianapolis is 6-1. They may be the best all-around team in the AFC right now. But do we trust them? What do we know about them? We know they got a great running back, and we know Daniel Jones, the quarterback who got run out of New York. Get him out. We don't want him here. He's been great in Indianapolis. But do we trust the Colts? From what we hear, what we see, what we read, they're a nice, well-balanced, all-around team. Again, they're 6-1. But we don't know a lot about them. Do we trust them? Can we put them and say they're clearly better? I don't know. I don't think so. And then you go to the NFC. Listen, there's good teams in the NFC. The Niners are in a pack of good teams, right? The Eagles. Eagles are 5-2. They don't look nearly as good as they were last. They're still a good team. But would you say they're clearly the top team in the end? No. Green Bay's very talented. Micah Parsons has been everything and more for their defense. But they've been a little inconsistent. They lost to the Browns, and they tied the Cowboys. Remember, they started the year, they beat Detroit. They looked great. They beat Washington. They looked great. And then since then, they're winning games, but maybe not quite as dominant as a lot of people thought. Talented team, inconsistent so far. Tampa Bay, they lost tonight. Everybody was talking about Tampa Bay, best team in the NFC. Well, they just lost to Detroit. And I think you could probably make a point at this time that maybe Detroit is the best all-around team in the NFC. They looked really good tonight. They shut down Baker Mayfield. And remember, Detroit, they started the year, they got beat up by Green Bay on opening night, just did not look good. But now they're playing better again. you know, they're gonna be there. But again, are we officially saying they're better than Green Bay and Tampa Bay and the Niners and the Rams? No, but that's my point in this whole thing. And I just don't think any of these teams, they're all talented and they're all going to be good as the season goes on. But at this point, I don't think the Niners and the Rams or even maybe Seattle, I don't know, but certainly the Niners and the Rams, I don't think they take a backseat to any of those teams that we mentioned in the NFC. And there could be team come out of nowhere. I don't know, but we know who the main characters are in the NFC, right? We know who the main characters are. So anyways, that's sort of my interesting look at the NFL. And I guess my point is it's wide open right now. So many close games every week, games going down to the wire, field goals winning it. I mean, this whole season for a team, I mean, the way it's going, the feel you get in the NFL this year, your whole season could come down to a handful of plays. Could come down to a field goal because we've seen that so much early in this year. But when there's tight games late, it just could be a defensive stop. It could be a get off the field on third down. It could be picking up a third down to keep a drive going. Pick up a fourth down to keep a drive going. Don't miss an extra point. We've seen that this year. Make sure you make a field goal late to win it. All these things, that's the kind of year it has been in the NFL. The question is it going to remain that way? I think it probably will. And if that's the case, watch your games closely because it could come down to a handful of plays that could make or break your season. That's the craziness of the NFL. But with the parity this year, and we'll see if it continues that way, the parity. But it makes, I think, a lot of fun. You may get some gray hairs watching your team play, but I think it's probably good for the NFL. And maybe it's just one of those years of full parity. Again, this is just after week 7. We'll see how it goes the rest of the year. So that's my NFL segment. I want to get a few comments in before we head out and let everybody go to bed. Bake That Dough says, Eagles haven't got their running game going yet. They eventually will, and watch out. Yeah, Barkley's been quiet. I mean, he's terrific, right? I mean, last year he was best running back in football. But that's the thing. But, it's like they haven't looked, the same, right? And I think that's kind of my point. Doesn't mean that a team like the Eagles won't take it up to their next level. Because I certainly think that they can, but we just haven't seen it yet. Gary says the Chiefs look like they have returned to form and the Raiders continue to be horrible. The Raiders are not good. Did I see a stat from the game yesterday that the Raiders had 3 first downs? 3 first downs? Did I see that correctly? I hope I did not see that correctly, but maybe I did. That's bad. Gary says, still amazed that the Denver Broncos were shut out for 3 quarters yesterday and scored 33 points in the fourth quarter to overcome a 20-0 deficit. I'm with you, Gary. That was unbelievable. Think about that. They get shut out for 3 quarters. They scored 33 points. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the Giants missed an extra point. That would have made it 30, right? It would have made it 33-30. Yeah, it would have made it 33-30. And Denver kicked a field goal, and that gave them the 1-point win because the Giants missed the extra point. Oh, that was unbelievable. I mean, that has to be one of the greatest comebacks. I mean, think about that. We've seen great comebacks, but to score 33 points in the fourth quarter after being shut out, I don't know. I can't imagine that that's happened a whole lot. College football, Penn State. Wow, that went very badly, very quickly. Yeah, it did. A guy got fired. Franklin got fired. How about the buyouts in college football for the coaches? He got fired, and he's going to get $50 million. We all should have been college football coaches. Should have changed our tune a long, long time ago. Let's see. One more comment. Broncos country, let's ride. Producer Ryan. Ryan must be a Broncos fan. Well, if he is, then he's going to be very happy at what happened yesterday. So crazy. I don't want to say crazy week, but how about a crazy season so far? Crazy season so far in the NFL. That's the way I'm going to put it. Full of parody. Will the parody continue? Keep a close eye on it. Keep watching the NFL like I do. Even though there's things that go on in the NFL that we don't like, you know that we're going to keep watching. So, all right, that's it for tonight's show. Let's check in with our sponsors one more time, including the Carrick Real Estate Team. Whether you're moving up, downsizing, or making that first home purchase, trust the Carrick Real Estate Team to guide you home. They have been helping people buy homes since 1978. Contact Mike Carrick today at 925-548-4132 if you are looking to make a home purchase. And brought to you by Tilden Properties. As an investor, one of the best places to put your money is California's multi-family real estate. Bay Area based and family owned, Tilden Properties has been building investors' wealth for their clients since 2008. Call them at 925-209-8558. And we're also brought to you by Valone Insurance. Are you tired of being overcharged on your property insurance? Valone Insurance has multiple options for your home and landlord properties. Save big money on your property insurance. Call Kyle or Ron at 925-433-8277. That is it for tonight's show. Hope you enjoyed it. We just trying to cover everything, folks. It's a busy time. It's busy time. You're lucky we don't get into college football. Maybe we will. Who knows? But we will be back on Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, right here in the Glen Kuiper Show for our World Series preview, the Dodgers and the Toronto Blue Jays. That is your World Series matchup for 2025. We're looking forward to that. World Series gets started on Friday night. We'll be here Wednesday with the preview. And as always, move around my channel a little bit. We're sending out a lot of good videos, a lot of fun stuff for you to check out. And let me know if you like them, and keep subscribing. Subscribers are coming in hot again, and we love that. So we appreciate all the people that are watching. I feel like we're all friends, just enjoying the Glen Kuiper Show. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you Wednesday night with our World Series preview at 7 o'clock. Have a good night, everybody.
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.